Hi everyone, good evening. I wanted to take a few minutes to try to clarify your essay assignment that I put online, and I know there were maybe a few questions about in relation to Durkheim and what we would be looking at to discuss in your essay. So Emile Durkheim is one of the sort of founding fathers of sociology. As I mentioned in my email, I believe many people studied him to a certain extent while you were in Intro to Sociology and had a little bit of background. So I wasn't trying to catch anybody off guard by bringing Durkheim into this, but as sort of one of the founding fathers of sociology, really discussing sort of the connections to people in society. One of his big theories has to do with social integration, social bonding, social solidarity, the collective conscience, which we'll talk about in a moment. He really sort of talked about the connections that we have to society and the groups in society, and the stronger those bonds are, the more we feel a part of society and connected, and we will do better and we will thrive. And the weaker the bonds are in society, then we might not do so well. The societies might be not as strong, not as put together, not thriving like some of the ones that have more interconnectedness. It makes us feel a part of something, and this can be connections through different groups, family groups, through friends, through religion, through education, through our neighborhoods, through social organizations, through politics even, through our jobs. And so there's a lot of connections that we can have in society. So it's really important to maintain those connections, is what he speaks about for social integration. The collective conscience really talks about how we, different ways we think and we feel, we behave, and they're all influenced by society. They're influenced by these groups in society. And so that this is sort of formed for people collectively. This collective conscience is formed through our different groups in society, through our social interactions, where people we hang out with act similarly, depending on whatever group it might be. So he really talked about these tight-knit interactions between different groups, our families, again, our friends, our work people, our education connections, our religious connections, all of these sorts of things, who we spend time with and what we enjoy about that time. So that's kind of the collective conscience and how we build some of our values and beliefs. Solidarity is very similar when he talks about social solidarity. He talked about two different types of solidarity, but it refers to the cohesiveness in groups in society, and people who have stronger degrees of this connection have more of this sort of social solidarity. And he talked about mechanical solidarity and organic solidarity. Mechanical is a little bit more independent solidarity, where people are connected through, again, some of those different agents of socialization that I just mentioned. They have shared values, they have shared beliefs. So again, tends to be more independent. Sometimes you can see mechanical solidarity in maybe smaller societies, more close-knit, or maybe more controlled societies, because people are kind of taught what to think and believe. It doesn't always have to be the case, but you don't necessarily need to rely on other people to sort of move forward. And that's where organic solidarity is a little bit different, in that there's more of an interdependence, sort of this codependence on other people or groups in society to work together to solve a problem for the common good, to work together in a social situation, a work situation, something like that. So social integration, collective conscience, and solidarity are all terms really talking about the interconnectedness of people within society. What I would like you to do, and I'm going to pull up our sheet so I'm clear on this. What I would like you to do for this essay, which will be our first exam, an essay that you will turn into me for our first exam, is to take a peek at, so for one of our discussion posts, we talked about the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant and sort of the past, and how some of those dynamics and beliefs and influences or values might play a part in society today, hundreds of years later. So we're going to do the same sort of analysis for groups for the Irish, which we will discuss tomorrow in class, and then for the Puritans, which we've already discussed, sort of some of the initial kind of founding groups of within the Boston area, certainly in the Massachusetts Bay. So I want you to think about some of the beliefs of these early settlers, what they came here with, what they were trying to do here, how they interacted with each other based on our discussions and our readings, and thinking about it in relation to Durkheim, and how Durkheim would talk about these interconnected groups in society, and how important it was to have these connections, where they got these connections from, and how we see them playing a role today, potentially, sort of the older Irish influence, the older Puritan influence, how we would talk about solidarity, collective conscience in Boston today based on these groups, what they sort of started at that time, what their values, beliefs, morals, behaviors, and how that has kind of processed throughout time moving forward with those groups, and how it plays out in Boston today potentially. And so talking about some of those connections and relationships from his theories to, you know, the sort of the dynamic with it that we see within the city today. And you can talk about, I mentioned the social structure in there, kind of the different ways society is organized through our social institutions. We could talk about education, because we are obviously in an educational institution, and Boston is very rich with higher educational institutions. We could talk about religion. Boston is actually a very religious city. Many different types of religions now are being displayed and represented. We could talk about the economy. We could talk about politics. We could talk about the media influence, families, and sort of different dynamics in different neighborhoods. So there's a lot to kind of, you don't have to talk about all of it, but thinking about sort of the relationship with the social structures. So I would like to chat a little bit about this tomorrow in class, but I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview and explanation for Durkheim and some of his theories to give you a little bit of a background, because I would like to focus in class tomorrow talking about the Irish influence and the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant influence when they first came to be settlers in Boston. So yeah, we can chat about this, and I will see you all in class tomorrow afternoon. Take care. Bye-bye.